Well, it's time to celebrate the amazing people that make Ghana wonderful. You're welcome to Personality Profile right here on Joy 99.7 FM, just about 6 minutes past 7 p.m. My name is Sammy Forson, and this evening, I'm excited about our guest. Our guest on Personality Profile tonight is Honorable Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum. He is the current Deputy Education Minister in charge of basic and secondary education. He's also the founder and former Chief Executive Officer of New Designs Charter Schools. The two schools have a combined enrollment of about 1,200 students in grades 6 to 12 in Los Angeles in the United States. And we'll be talking more about the schools in the States and a whole lot more. But he's our guest right here on Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. Questions for Honorable Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum can come through WhatsApp 0244 340437. That's 0244 340437. Honorable, good evening and welcome to Personality Profile.
Good evening, my brother.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And I don't know if you're all psyched up for Christmas, but let me be probably the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
And you are truly the first to wish me a Merry Christmas.
I'm glad to do that. And thanks for honoring our invitation, to join us right here on Personality Profile. Well, to take over our conversation, you've been in the U.S., in education for about 25 years, if not more. First of all, what motivated you to want to come back, to Ghana and assume the position that you occupy now, the Deputy Minister of Education in charge of basic and secondary education?
Thank you. And first of all, let me thank you for this great opportunity. I asked a few questions of people who know something about your show, and they say, hey, you are lucky to be on that show. You must have done something right to be on that show. So I'm grateful to you and to your producer for bringing me on.
The pleasure is ours.
On this show. And let me take this opportunity to say a very good evening to the good people of Ghana. And just as you wish me Merry Christmas, you wish them Merry Christmas ahead of the Christmas. And also to the very good people of Bosomtwe constituency who gave me this opportunity of a lifetime to serve them in Parliament. I just want to tell them a wonderful evening, and I'm grateful every day to them.
Any plans for them this Christmas? Your constituency?
It's a lot of people, 66 towns and villages. A good wish can go a long way.
All right, but what motivated you to come back to Ghana and contribute in a very spectacular way to the education sector of this country?
My brother is knowing where I grew up and how I grew up, getting to the U.S. and getting to the education space was nothing short of a miracle. And of course, by the grace of God and through hard work, I was able to accomplish a lot in America after teaching for 10 years.
10 years?
10 years, and getting the opportunity to actually open schools, charter schools, schools that are in the public-private partnership space where individuals with a great vision have to go through a process to open the school. Government then funds you based on the number of students that you have enrolled. I saw that as a exciting opportunity because you get to challenge yourself. And our schools were supposed to and were expected to do better than the public schools. So whereas in the public school space in South Los Angeles, maybe about 20% of the students who graduate from high school will get the opportunity to go to the university, we were able to produce not less than 85%.
Wow.
Going to universities across the United States.
Incredible.
Yeah, so I like that. I really like the challenge of proving myself and showing that, hey, a Ghanaian can come to America and establish one of the best performing schools. And fast forward a few years later, the current president of the land travels to California, and I was hosted in one of my schools.
Oh, okay.
And it was interesting. I didn't know he was going to be hosted there. It was a last-minute arrangement, and
I see.
They said, "Oh, the president should rather be hosted in your school." And I said, "Wow, that's a great opportunity." So he came to the school. saw what was going on there with all the students, about 200 workers, and then probably he was amazed because he kept asking me, how were you able to do this?
Because you employ a lot of white folks.
Yes. So he kept asking me, how were you able to do this? A Ghanaian came to America and built schools for Americans. And then after all the praises, he asked me the last question. Would you consider coming back to Ghana to help me change the education system? And these were his words. And I thought about it deeply. Of course, I answered in the affirmative. How can you say no to a person who's running for president and say, I want everybody to go to high school, and that I will implement the same thing that you are doing in America? So I felt like, yeah, I should think about it. So I said, Mr. President, he was not president then. I said, no, I will think about it, and I will come. I'll give you the opportunity. Then begins the thinking.
The thinking and the contemplating and weighing of options.
Grew up poor. You have come here. You have accomplished a lot. And you, in my mind, say, you going back. And the interesting thing was, I had to then had a meeting. I invited a mentor of mine to lunch. He was a former congressman.
Okay.
I invited him to lunch. And prior to that, I had been talking to him as my mentor about the opportunity to represent South Los Angeles, or part of it in the U.S. Congress. So I always knew I was going to be a politician, and my last career I will be focusing on politics. I knew that in my heart, and I was working towards that in terms of my involvement in various organizations in South Los Angeles. But I thought I was probably going to make history by being the first African immigrant to go to U.S. Congress. And that is the kind of history I felt like, wow, that would be great. Going back to Ghana as a congressman.
I see.
So I met with this mentor of my former congressman, Dr. Mervyn Dimley, and he said, I told him everything that, this guy running for president in Ghana has come to my school. He wants me to come back home and help him
do the same thing.
Yeah, do the same thing. And then he said, yeah, I'll tell you one thing. If you want me to tell you my honest opinion, you've done very well. And we appreciate what you have contributed to American society, especially in South Los Angeles. But I want to tell you this. America can do without you, but maybe your country cannot do without you.
Wow.
I don't know. It got into my soul when he said that. And I didn't ask him any further questions. We finished our lunch. We parted, came home, told my wife we're going back to Ghana.
What was your wife's reaction?
Interestingly, my wife is somebody who supports everything that I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, he feels that if I have come to that conclusion, it must be something right. So he truly did not question it, but I could see that he has some questions to ask.
A few doubts here and there.
You're going back to Ghana. You've done all this things here, and how you? So there were a lot of questions that I'm sure was going through him, and he asked me a few, and she also became convinced that it would be a good thing to come back to Ghana, especially since this has been asked of me by somebody running for president. So I just also felt that if I'm coming, then I should also run for parliament. So that I'll be a parliamentarian, and if the president then asks me to serve in government, I'll also be able to do so. So I began the journey of coming back to my constituency.
Okay.
And running in the primaries. And
how easy or tough was that?
It was tough because some people underestimated me. They thought I had no idea of Ghanaian political landscape.
Because you've stayed most in America.
25, 26 years. And
I see.
How do you think? Even the guys who came around me, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're going to make any strategic decision politically, they will say something that offend that, doctor, you may not know about Ghanaian politics. And I say, are you sure?
You have done your research and all.
The same. There are worse things that happen in American politics.
Wow.
The same way happening in Ghanaian politics. But I also felt strongly that I had to do my research. So I hired a consultant, a research consultant who did a very good research for me. So I knew I was going to win.
I see.
I knew I was going to win.
Wow.
The figures pointed in the direction where I was going to win. And so it made me more confident. And I began the campaign. And as they say, the rest is history. And then I found myself in Parliament. president asked me to be a deputy minister to support my minister, Honorable Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
Okay, so let's get to your role as Deputy Education Minister in charge of basic and secondary education. What exactly goes into your job?
Actually, we call it general education to distinguish that from TVET.
Okay.
Because with the TVET realignment and the importance that the government is attaching to TVET, it was decided that initially for the first year, I was in charge of secondary education and TVET. And then a decision was made that I should rather handle KG all the way to senior high school, so that my other colleague, Honorable Barbara, would take over our TVET. So within this space, I am actually looking at KGs, looking at primary schools, looking at junior high schools and senior high schools. And every level has some opportunities that we have to, and some challenges, of course, that we have to deal with. But I like the fact that since I'm in charge of the whole space, I'm able to look at creating a pipeline. So if you talk about, there's a policy that says there should be, universities should have 60% in the sciences, 40% in the humanities. If you are in my position, you look at that and say it's not possible, because I'm seeing the pipeline. I'm seeing the pipeline coming from the KGs through the primary school, through the junior high school, through senior high schools. And by the time you look at how many people are in science, there's no way that about 15% of the students in science can become 60% when they get to the university. It's not possible. So that's the opportunity I have, because I'm able to look at a pipeline and not just a small space within the whole sphere of education in the country. So it's exciting. A lot of things have to be looked at, and everywhere I look, I see opportunity. I see opportunity everywhere.
I see.
And the reason I talk about opportunity, not all the problems and the challenges. I went to UK with my team. We visited, of course, Parliament and Westminster area. We walked around. I saw statues of great people everywhere.
Oh, okay.
You see Cromwell, you see this person. People have done great things. So I was walking through the halls and saw all these pictures of people who have done some great things. So I turned around and told my colleague that I'd rather be African. And he said, "Wow, do you rather be African?" I said, "Africa is the place where history is still being made."
Oh, okay.
If I was in UK right now and I was working in UK right now, probably there's no way a statue will be erected in my honor. Because the history has been made. You have all these statues. But I come to Ghana, and if I work hard enough, one day somebody will, at least I'll be an appendix, a footnote of history. So this is where history is being made. And that's why I don't see challenges. I see challenges. I don't see problems. I see opportunity for the total transformation of this nation everywhere.
Wonderful.
Especially when you are living under the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. You sit down with him one-on-one. You walk away from there, and you can see that the better days of the nation are ahead of us, provided we work hard, and provided we serve with humility, and provided will communicate the vision of the president so well to Ghanaians, so that they begin to understand the kind of leader he is and his vision for the total transformation of this nation. I'm excited every day. I wake up and then I can't wait to get to the office.
Yes, you said that before we came on air, that there's no day you wake up and you're not excited to come and serve the nation. But let's talk about making history. I mean, under you, we have the Free Senior High School. For the sake of the layman out there, could you just describe to us exactly what goes into Free Senior High School?
Yeah, actually, and thank you for the question. The opportunity that has been presented to us is enormous. And that's why I cannot afford not to be humble to serve. Hitherto, you have children with coming from less means, bright, and cannot access secondary education. And that thought that there's a kid at Nyamieni in the Bosoncho constituency, he's so bright, or he's determined, but the parents cannot give him the opportunity. is something that when you think about, if you are somebody like me, and somebody says, let's eliminate that question completely from the minds of anyone, that no kid will say to himself that I can't go because my parents cannot afford. You want to do that. And the reason I say if you are somebody like me is that once upon a time, I remember very well, my father a cocoa farmer, mother a cocoa farmer, and we grew up in the western region for the most part. But we come from Ashanti region, but that's where my father's cocoa farm was. So as a kid, before I started primary one, that's where I was, in the Wassa area, and Tubam, Mansour Memfi. You walk 10 miles to the hamlet, to the village, and that's where we lived. And so every vacation, I go back there. And work on the cocoa farm to support my parents. Maybe this day they will call it child labor.
Child labor.
But those days, during vacation, that was where you were. When people were talking about vacation classes, I was there weeding around the cocoa farms, the cocoa trees, and that was what we were doing. But past the common entrance, those days, and equivalent of like the BEC, and my father did not have 40 cedis to go and pay the deposit, because he had to pay
for
the
you
deposit
to go to school,
to go to senior high school.
Wow,
it was tough, and I was the oldest son with my mom, and then he was sad because he knew I was smart, and he had always told me that I would go what he called the last school. When I started primary one, and my head teacher made a mistake of telling my dad that I was intelligent, he came and said, your head teacher says you go. He couldn't say university, he said the last school, because the head teacher said university, and he asked him, what university? And he said, that's the school that is the end, the end of everything, education. So he always reminded me that your head teacher says you are very intelligent, you are smart, and you go to the last school. So I was looking forward to going to the last school, and then I get to the middle school, and I couldn't get to the last. And then you couldn't
go further.
Yeah, so it was a very difficult time for him. He went around, and most of the time I would follow him to his friends, asking for a loan so that he could go and pay the deposit. They couldn't. And one day we were just sitting there lamenting, my brother and I, my younger brother, sibling, and we were lamenting that wow, I'm not going, and I'm not going. And I heard that I had a high score on the common trans in my school. So,
I see.
So it was like, I'm not going. So my younger brother, all of a sudden, some idea popped up in his mind, and he said, what about if Dad found you money to go back to Jache, where we come from, and sold some pigs that I have, because he was helping our uncles to raise some pigs, and they had given him some. So he said, if you go and sell them, you get the money. So my dad found money for me. The next day, I came back to Ashanti region. My uncle sold the pigs. I got 42 cedis. And here was
you actually had the 40 and extra 2 cedis.
Yes,
I see.
To go back. So I was the happiest guy on earth.
Wow.
I get to go to high school. And that's what Jache Primary Senior High School.
I see.
I know some of my friends will say, so did you go to Jache? I said, yeah. And they would laugh at me because they went to Achimota and Fancy. I said to them, you don't know. I couldn't have gone to Fancy because how was I going to buy the trunk and the choppers and the clothes? But you see, so as a person who almost did not go, finding myself in America, doing some big things there, coming back and being given the responsibility to help create opportunity for thousands and thousands of students to get to where I am and maybe do better than me. It creates a lot of excitement in my mind. And I was at West Africa Senior High School last Monday, sat in about 8 classes just to see how teachers teach and how students learn. And the next day I went to Biology Presby primary school, and the kids were so amazing. I ended up teaching fractions to them.
I see.
I thought I was going to pass through there. I ended up spending about 2 hours there interacting with the kids. It was such a exciting time, exciting moment. I'm just excited because I see the vision of the president, and I see clearly that as a nation, if we rally around him and establish the foundations of a strong education system. And I tell people all the time that we have a lot of work to do because we haven't created a system for 21st century.
Okay.
And if we could create that system that responds to the needs of our 21st century Ghana, where we train the children to become critical thinkers, we train children to become collaborative learners and not box them into monodecks and dual decks and just sit there for the teacher who is the wisest person in the world to teach you, but allow the children to participate in the learning process, which means you have to rearrange the class differently and invest in the teachers, invest in the students. And interestingly, it's happening in some of our private schools in Ghana here, where you walk in and the learning environment is different. And we can, with some investment, change the way students learn and change the way teachers teach, so that it won't be a situation where we are just opening up the schools. We are just opening access. If you just do access and do not do quality, it's not a good investment. So you have to begin to do quality when you train people who head your schools. You know, we don't have to have any formal training to become a headmaster in Ghana. You'll be a teacher, all right.
Okay.
But for you to transition from teaching to headmastership, there's no formal requirement.
Oh, okay.
So you're the best chemistry teacher in the school, but it doesn't make you the best leader. Especially when you don't have any formal training in leadership or school administration or management, and then you are trusted into leadership. So you go there and you do what the former headmaster was doing, the ones that you saw. You saw how you were assistant headmaster and they were doing things that we do the same thing. And if we don't change that and create a pipeline where you don't have to wait for 20 years to head a school, but you can work for 5 years and you have the right qualities, you have the opportunity to go into headmastership and bring about change in our schools, then the access wouldn't have met the goals for the transformation of the nation. If we don't benchmark our assessment to terms and PISA, and by the way, Ghana went to terms and we quit after about 5 years because we felt like the scores were too bad. Well, the last batch won and we left. No, we don't leave. You ask yourself, I have quality human beings just like these nations. Why am I last but one? There must be something I'm not doing right. So to tell you, we are going back.
Okay.
We're going back to PISA. We're going to do international assessment, but we'll benchmark our assessment, and now we're going to also do national assessment. So we're not going to wait till 11 years before we test students to see on the BC whether they are doing well or not. So we're going to have assessment in primary 2, national assessment in English and mathematics.
Okay.
So that we know all students in primary 2 whether they are doing well or not.
Okay.
We give ourselves 1 year in primary 3 where we don't test. Prep them. If they are not doing well, do intervention. We test them again in primary 4. See what improvement they are making. We test students in primary 6. So when you do all that and couple with the fact that you are training leaders of the schools, then you're going to really bring about the quality and the access issue, which we have solved now, will have been beneficial to the nation, because you are not just opening the floodgates, you're also improving the teaching and learning so that the nation will derive the maximum benefit from our education system.
There have been complaints of overcrowding in some of the schools, and then I think the double track system came on board as well. So far, how's that running from your perspective?
Yeah, the double track system has served its purpose. The purpose was that, one, it will increase enrollment and decongest.
Okay.
And that is the two things that if you put together, it's difficult for people to understand. You are telling me in one breath, that's the question that comes often. You are telling me in one breath that you're going to increase the enrollment at Achimota. And you are at the same time telling me the class sizes are going to be smaller. How is that possible? So that is where the magic of the double track comes in. That you have arranged the schools and the calendar and the schedule in such a way that at any point in time, there are lesser number of students at the schools than they were there the previous year. If you go to a school like Accra Girls, they will tell you that the class sizes have reduced. And it has reduced in a number of schools because of how the school has been arranged. Because when Green Track is there, they are there with Form 2, and which is half of Form 1. They are there with Form 2 and Form 3.
Okay.
And then they leave after 2 months of instruction. And then you have Gold Track coming on board. We know Gold Track is there for 4 months. They only break for a few days for Christmas, but they are there for 4 months non-stop. Now, halfway through Gold Track, Form 2 and Form 3 go on vacation. And then Green Track comes back to finish the semester with Gold. At that point in time, the school is half empty. Because Form 2 is gone, Form 3 is gone. It's only, about 2/3 of the school population is gone. It's only Form 1 students who are there.
And how long is the double track supposed to run? We told you it's between 5 and 7 years.
5 and 7 years, and given the support we are getting, probably we may do, some of the schools may go off a double track faster. As I speak with you, GMPC has graciously supported the Free Senior High School program, and I'm very grateful to the CEO, Dr. KK Sapong, and the board for taking on that task. We have 42 classroom blocks across the country that are at the roofing stage. Some are almost completed.
Oh, so expansion works are also going on concurrently?
All concurrently. We also have 75 schools with new facilities. Contracts will be awarded next week so that construction will begin immediately. We have about 75 schools that are also going to see expansion through the Secondary Education Improvement Project. In January, another building, number of buildings will come on stream, and each one of the contract has 6 months to complete because we're able to get the president to approve a new policy for facility development, which has never been experimented here in this country, where we're able to securitize funds that are coming from GET Fund. We took 40% of the funds coming from GET Fund. We are borrowing 1.5 billion. Parliament has approved 500. The first tranche is 500 million, and it's going to secondary school expansion. We're doing 42 model schools. We are giving almost every school that is on double track is going to see expansion. And that expansion would then take away second year double track. The following year we do more expansion. First year double track will be gone. The third year you do more. Third year double track will be gone. So for a number of schools, double track will be gone, and that's why we give ourselves 5 to 7 years. But we feel strongly that with the leadership of the minister and the vision that he's the agenda and the strategy that he has helped us develop, we are going to get out of double track. And we are not getting out
because some people are scared that it will be something that would probably stay with us.
You see, that's why I told you at the beginning that I'm excited, because this president means he means well, and he focuses on what he says. So he's not even going to allow it to happen. It came from his mouth. We don't want to go to the era where there was this president in the U.S. who said, "Read my lips, no more taxes," and taxes came. So when the president of Ghana says we're going to do something in 5 to 7 years, he's going to focus on that vision to get us to that intended destination.
Okay. Well, Honorable, let's switch things a bit. All right. Now, you worked as a mathematics and information technology teacher at Manual Arts High School for 10 years. Makes me wonder, was that a childhood dream?
Of going to America? Never dreamt.
And I mean teaching as well.
Teaching, yes. I love to teach. In the many years back, after sixth form, you did 1 year national service. And then after university, you did 1 year. And when I was doing my sixth form national service, I went to teach in my old school, Jachi Pramso Senior High School. Actually, I did my sixth form at Kumasi High. And then Jachi Pramso was an O-level school. So from Jachi Pramso, I went to Kumasi High School.
Was there anything about your childhood that inspired you to want to be a teacher?
Actually, teaching, I wouldn't. You see, the point of the matter was this. I just wanted to go to the university. I was not even thinking of what I was going to do. It was in the later years that when I did my sixth form national service, I began to see the impact you could make on others when you teach. But I went to the university and I did land economy. And I was not supposed to teach with land economy. But when I went to the US, I had a great opportunity. I'll be frank with you. I didn't walk into the classroom in America thinking that teaching is what I wanted to do. I saw an opportunity because they were doing double track. And they needed more teachers, what we call double track, call year-round schools. They needed more teachers at the time. So I was at the right place at the right time as a substitute teacher. I went to the school and they said, we are going year-round and we need more teachers. And I said to myself, there's a great opportunity. I applied and they gave me an opportunity. But after getting to the classroom, I loved it. Even though it was so challenging to teach in America. Man, when a kid can just look at you and tell you whatever he wants to tell you and there's nothing you can do to him. I remember last day of school, in one of the schools, I was just sitting there. And last day, the kids were running around. They were in the classroom. A kid walked in. The door was open, threw water on me, and ran away.
Really?
Yeah. And that school.
How did you react to that?
What can you do? And then the funny thing that happened, that was a middle school. And then at the end of that year, I got the opportunity to go to high school because of the year-round school, double track that they were implementing. So I went to that school. I was sitting in my classroom, and one day that boy walks in, and he was going to be a student in my class, the one who threw water on me. So he was coming with his friend. He stopped at the door, and his friends were saying, "More, go in. Why are you standing here?"
He knew what he had done.
He said, "You don't know what I did to this guy. I never thought I was going to meet him anywhere." So I made him my class leader for that particular group. And I said, "Hey, don't worry, you're going to be my class leader. Anything that you need, let me know." And he served me very well.
But was there any particular thing you would cite as a motivation that attracted you to teaching?
It's when I got to the classroom.
Okay.
And I saw the opportunity to transform lives. I remember my first class in US, when I saw the data of the school and students were not doing well in mathematics, and because Land County did not give us so many units of, I took some extra classes at the US to be a mathematics teacher, and I saw the kids coming in, and they didn't have any motivation for mathematics, and I have to begin to look at how do I teach math different from the rest of the teachers in the school. So I made my math classes more practical, like they do in Singapore. You start with the concrete to abstract. So what I did was I'll take them outside the classroom, I would do measurements, I would do so many other things outside the classroom so that they can appreciate mathematics. And I remember my first project was choose a profession and talk about how mathematics is used in the activities of the profession. So once I did that, I began to see that an opportunity was opening for the students. They become more excited. They were more excited about mathematics. And some of them, at the end of one semester, I did my own evaluation.
Yeah.
I created an evaluation form for the students to evaluate me and tell me how well I was teaching them and what are the things I could change. And they were all very honest in telling me that we like this, we don't like that. And as I saw that if I could motivate the students enough, if I could do some big things with them, if I could make math more attractive to them, and I could demystify mathematics in such a way that I could take the fear out, more students are going to do mathematics. And in the US, math is the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
If you want to go to Harvard, you want to go to Yale, go to a top university, and you did not do calculus in high school, you are not likely to get in. They select students for various programs based on higher ability in mathematics and science and other courses, irrespective of the major that you're going to do. So with that, demystifying mathematics, I began to see that I had a role to play in the education system there.
Okay.
So that kind of brought me in. So it wasn't no longer about I have a job. It was all about the impact, the difference that I could make. And I remember one year, the graduating class named me the funniest teacher of the year. Mathematics teachers.
Funniest teacher of the year.
Yeah, that I could crack jokes.
I see.
I could get them to laugh and at the same time do mathematics.
I see.
And math teachers are not supposed to be like, they are straight and stern and
I mean, when they're straight and stern, they make it look very unattractive to the subject. I would admit that. I mean, being a student as well, not too long ago. But you spoke about how you would allow the students to evaluate you and all that. Want to know what are some of the monitoring and evaluation systems put in place for, SHS as well?
You see, we have some ways to go in terms of how we change the way teachers teach and how students learn. For the most part, you sit in a classroom like I sat in a classroom last week, and you don't see the enthusiasm of the students much for the most part. And a number of times when it's not mathematics and other classes, it's all about hearing the teacher and then copying notes and memorizing. And whoever is able to tell the teacher exactly what the teacher told him or her become the best student. And that way of teaching and learning does not transform a nation, because you don't create critical thinkers. You don't. So now we are looking at measures where we can bring schools, people together and begin to get them to teach and learn differently, like we are doing through the Secondary Education Improvement Project, and a project that was started by the previous government, and we inherited it. It was a great opportunity. We even added more funding, requested for more funding from the World Bank, and we are continuing.
Okay.
But there's a teacher training component of it, and that teacher training component allows teachers to begin to explore and practice how they can teach collaboratively. They can teach in groups. They can do cooperative learning, and not just being a sage on stage, as they call it.
Okay.
I'm the wisest guy in the room. I'm going to tell you what to write, and when I tell you write it, during the exam time, make sure you give it back to me. And I think we call it chew, pour,
chew and pour.
Chew, pour, and some say pass and forget. But I call it chew, pour, fail, and you are forgotten.
I see.
Because invariably they don't pass.
Okay.
If you look at the pass rate on the WASSCE, average 35% going to the universities, you can't say you chew and you poured and you passed. Invariably they don't pass. And even when they pass, they are not contributing much long term to the development of the nation. So having said that, you have to then train headmasters to know the new ways of teaching and learning so that they can support their teachers. And that is why we have a leadership training program coming online beginning in January, where we are going to create a pipeline of new administrators, and we're also going to train new existing headmasters how to lead schools, how to analyze data, use that to create a sense of urgency, get your teachers to understand that here is the data, we are doing well, we are not doing well, and based on that, we're going to teach the way we teach and learn. But you see, one of the things is that we also don't have professional development as part of the instructional calendar. In other jurisdictions, where education has really blossomed, what they do is that there are days set aside where students don't go to class, teachers meet to learn how to teach and teach well, analyze their data. And in most places, they have about 10 days throughout the year for that purpose. So teachers do what they call inset through their work and at the workplace. And those are some of the things that we are looking at implementing. And there are schools in Ghana, private schools, that do that. They train teachers very well. So we don't have to even travel anywhere. To know that those things will help us a lot.
Okay. Honorable, talking about teachers, you did say that, as a teacher yourself, it was a joy, to teach and make sure that your students are doing well. But let's look at other aspects of teachers. In recent times, one of the sad incidents that has gotten media reportage is the immoral relationships between teachers and students on various campuses. And I'm sure you've probably heard some of these things going on. And, I don't know what you make of it, but why would teachers take pleasure in having sexual relations with their students?
You see, when we say teachers, it makes it appear that everybody does that. But
some teachers, yes.
Some teachers. I don't want the teachers to start calling you
some teachers.
Some teachers. Yeah, unfortunately, this is something that Ghana Education Service, I truly commend them. Dr. Opoku Amankwa and his team. They are doing a fantastic job of responding swiftly to issues like that. The Ashanti Regional Director, for example, have swiftly acted when situations like that arose. Many years back, I remember that there were situations where action was not taken, and parents were lamenting about why no action is being taken. But we also have recognized that, like any institution, you have to do some training. So we are also working with UNICEF, for example, to look at how we can put together professional development for all teachers across the country, something that can be offered online. You go online, you enter your password, you go through the training, you come back to your school. There are some other trainings that are done to really remind you of the do's and don'ts. You see, sometimes we take it for granted that they should know better, and then we say, why are they not doing this? But we also have to make sure we go back and remind people and say, this is not something that you do. You don't put yourself in a compromising position. You don't put yourself in a situation as somebody's child who has been sent to you to guide and to train is now being molested by you. I think that is something we should not be talking about in our schools. And as a result, we're not going to tolerate that. The minister has made it very clear. And now when that happens, you're immediately taken away from the classroom or from the school so that there's no cause for alarm in terms of you doing it again. Investigation is done, and after the investigation, then action is taken. But you see, if you look at the best practices from around the world, it shouldn't even be the responsibility of GES to talk about investigating the actual crime. Crime is committed.
But I must say, Honorable, that a lot of parents are probably living in fear, because about 2 weeks ago we carried it on our network right here on Joy about two boys sodomizing a lower primary student. It had the grandmother, I think, was pressing charges and all of that. What really is happening with our students as well, and what steps are you taking to make sure that parents would feel safe to put their children in school?
You see, as we live in the 21st century, and this is not to excuse behavior, but it's to say that we need to be more alert, and we need to make sure that we are putting measures in place so that the behavior can be avoided in the first place, and where it happens, action will be taken so that we can discourage others from doing so. I don't have the facts of the case of the sodomy and what those children did and where they were, but I just want to say that we need to ramp up issues about counseling and teach and get equipping teachers to be able to deal with 21st century issues, things that we didn't have to worry about 10 years ago. Now we have to worry about it, but it's not sitting there for it to happen before we react, but about the preemptive way of dealing with it so that it doesn't happen. But in cases where it happens, we have to take swift action. But I believe in prevention, because when it happens, you look in the parent in the eye to communicate bad news to them. And that is not the easiest thing for any headmaster to do. That's why we encourage headmasters to really do not tolerate it, because if you tolerate it, somebody's going to do it. And when they do it, you have that unpleasant experience of calling a parent to your office and telling that parent, your child was entrusted to my care, and look at what one of my teachers have done, they have done to your child. That's no experience any headmaster have to have. So we have to be more vigilant. But I think we have to train. And I understand that someone will say, you don't have to train anybody to know this. But we have to, for people to be reminded that Ghana Education Service will act swiftly when this happens.
Okay, Honorable, now there's a lot that you have achieved as well. I mean, you have actually gone to the extent of, aside teaching as a math teacher, you also did, embark on a program at the Neighborhood Academic Initiative, and then you went on to also see your students through to high institutions like UCLA, USC, Yale, and a whole lot more. And there's a lot you've done for yourself. What is the next step aside being the Deputy Minister of Education in Ghana?
The rest is in the hands of God and the good people of Ghana. I mean, to me, the most important thing is wherever I find myself, whatever position I find myself in, what impact I can make in the life of others. I've seen it all. I've been able to go to the U.S. and even if I was just teaching there, it will have an accomplishment in itself. But the idea that I can have 200 workers working for me and making sure that we can change the destiny of a number of students in South Los Angeles, I've seen it all. And as I was telling you before the show, I saw Deputy Minister for Education. I said to myself, okay, I'm here to serve. But interestingly, it was like a role reversal, right? As the CEO of an organization in the U.S., whenever I call somebody, they will come with their notebook to take notes. My staff will come. But
this time around,
the minister calls me, I have to walk into your office. And I leave it behind and I go back. And my staff went, why are you coming? So I left my notebook. I have to take it. So that if the minister says something, I can write it down, And so it's kind of interesting because I felt
Wonderful.
Like, wow. And when I was leading as CEO, you call someone and they don't know what you're going to ask them, right? So the people are coming and they're, oh, what's he going to tell me? And now I find myself in that. Minister calls you, hey, come and let's talk. And you don't know what he's going to say. You are trying to guess. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing, and that kind of thing. So it's good.
See.
So I'm now learning how to follow after leading for so many years. And it's exciting to make me a better person.
Honorable, you work very hard. I just want to know, do you have time to enjoy music at all? Like, what's your favorite song?
Of course. So many of them, but...
on a very good day.
Anything Lumba is great.
Anything Lumba. Daddy Lumba.
Yeah.
I see. I mean, you can give us a particular song that you can actually sing to if you have to give us...
Singing, I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to attempt. But anything from Lumba is good.
Okay, so let me see if you probably can sing along to this one.
Sing along. I'm the best singer, man.
I'm sure you have some good dancing moves as well.
Oh, dancing moves, I can assure you. And more so when they can't see me, I won't dance. They are streaming live, I've been told.
Okay, let Honorable enjoy a bit of Daddy Lumba right here on Personality Profile. It's Personality Profile right here on Joy 99.7 FM. We're having a great conversation with Honorable Dr. Yaw Osei Educhum, the current Deputy Minister in charge of basic and secondary education. Honorable was giving us some dance moves in the chair. Not bad though, not bad.
Thank you. They don't think I have moves.
Does your wife think you are a good dancer?
Yeah, because I'm able to match up to her a few times. So
I see.
She's better than me, but these days I'm catching on.
I see. But tell us about your family. Tell us about your wife and how many children do you have?
We have 2 kids, and one is older.
Okay.
The younger one, 10 years old, that's about 35, and they're all doing well. The younger one is doing well in school. Tonight, on his way back to the States, he's missing his friends. So.
Oh, your son?
Yeah, he said, Dad, I miss my friends.
But is your wife here or she's still in the States?
You know, he comes, actually she was here, vacation time they go.
Okay. But the school and everything
is there. They are running it well. I'm very happy with the fact that they are focusing on the mission and vision and still making an impact in the life of others.
I see. And why didn't you let them school in Ghana?
My son is schooling here.
He's schooling here? Yeah. Oh, okay. So he misses his friends
in the US and wants to go and see them.
I see. Interested. How long have you been married for?
Remember?
You've lost track.
Yes, 94.
So, if you had to give marriage advice to somebody, probably getting
I'm not qualified
married or anything,
No, I that's something I stay away from.
Oh, why?
Why? The experience is very different for different people.
Okay.
There are people who, especially abroad, they get challenges because of how they use their money, and somebody wants to bill for the mother, someone wants to bill for the dad, and there are conflicts. Every situation is very different. I think it's just going with the flow and understanding that situations will come and it will be resolved, and that's everybody has a different way of making things work for him or her.
But what's that one thing that probably has worked for you in your marriage?
My wife is kind of different, so probably her demeanor has worked better for me. Has made it work. He is not somebody who worries about what you give to your family, and overseas those are issues that come up a lot. That everything's going to your family and what happens to me. She doesn't think about that. She thinks about, can we help people? I remember when there was a young man who, by accident, I was searching online on Google one evening after work, and I was trying to look at how we could do exchange programs. And I chanced upon AF, this organization that brings students to America.
Yeah.
So I searched or Googled, and then I don't know how that page opened. There was a young man whose parents were sending him to the U.S., and he was looking for a family to host. The organization was looking for a family to host him. So I came and told my wife, I saw this young man. And then what struck me was that he was the only child of the parents. The mom was an assistant headmistress, and the father, a lawyer. They have only one child, and they want him to come to America and stay there for 1 year as an exchange student.
Okay.
So I said, why don't we sponsor him? Why don't we host him? And my wife was super excited. We brought him home.
Interesting.
And, he came to live with us for 1 year. And the funny thing was, when we called the mom in Ghana, she was not expecting that his son would be living with a Ghanaian in America. So he was worried about how he's going to adjust living with a white guy.
I see.
So we called after we took him home, and we called the mom in Ghana. And at that time, he was part of a prayer group. They were praying for safe arrival.
I see.
And so the son spoke with the mom first, and he said, "Mommy, talk to my host." And I started talking to her in Chi, and she couldn't believe it. She was so happy. So I never thought my child would be living with somebody Ghanaian in America. And
you have an amazing wife, I should say.
Oh, yeah. So she did a good job when we brought in the child. And he ended up staying with her for 1 year. He came back and went back to university there. We stayed with him for 3 years.
I see. Incredible. Wonderful.
Yeah, so it was a great opportunity.
Okay.
She's somebody who is accepting of us.
I see. Wonderful. Honorable, as we wrap up in about a minute, what will be your advice to, all the stakeholders in education, from teachers to, parents, policymakers, and what's your Christmas message to Ghanaians out there?
Okay, I would just say that we have a lot of things to do. We have to look at education from the KG. By the way, we are building about last year. We started constructing about 90 new KGs.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some of them have been opened, and others will be opening very soon. And we are changing the furniture in those classrooms so that children can learn collaboratively. We have circular desks around which about 5 kids will sit so that they can work together. So we are starting with KG. The president's vision is clear that we need to give a strong foundation at those ages, and it's happening.
Okay.
And now we are looking at junior high school B-STEM program, where we can infuse STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics education into junior high school. So there's a lot of things going on. There are collapsing schools that we are rebuilding. A number of things are going all the way to senior high school. Senior high school is just a piece of it's where the media is more interested. They ask me more questions, so people think everything is senior high school. No, that's not the case. We are doing so many things. A great opportunity has been presented to this nation. I always say that presidents in the history of the nation, every one of them, leave some legacy. And if you look at Dr. Nkrumah, industrialization, a great work that he did in laying foundation for this nation. Move on to Prime Minister Buzia and rural development. You talk about Champong with Operation Feed Yourself.
Yeah, and they've done a lot themselves.
And then move on to Rawlins with electrification, making us probably in terms of penetration the best in Africa. Sometimes we tie with South Africa. It's a legacy you can't take from him. President Kufuor.
And you have done yours as well.
Then President Kufuor. I tell people that he is like the education minister, education president. He's done some wonderful work. And his foundation that he's laying through education is going to be a legacy that we will all look back and say he came, he saw the opportunity to use education for socioeconomic transformation, and he grabbed it, and he did it with President Mahama with E-Blocks and President Mills and the schools that they built. Every one of them has done something. We are at a time where we can do more, and I'm happy to find myself here, where I can also contribute a bit. And I want to wish all Ghanaians a very Merry Christmas. It's not here yet, but the host is asking me to wish you, and I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas.
Honorable, thank you so much for joining us right here on Personality Profile. And God bless you with the good work you're doing for the motherland as well. All right.
Thank you.
Many thanks to the entire team. And, well, at this note, we cross over to the